Let's go ahead.
Warm greetings to everyone on behalf of the Migration News. I, Abhishek Yadav, would like to welcome all our distinguished resource persons, including Dr. Raj Bardule, Professor Vinod Khadria,
पेड़ है
Professor Kemelia,
तू कर रही हो
please, I would like to request all of the
Kindly
participants
mute to
to
all
please mute
your
themselves.
mic at least.
So I would like to welcome all the resource persons, including Professor Kemelia Tigau, Professor Vinod Khadia, Professor uh, uh, Ms. Pedi Sianga Nutsen, and all the participants who have joined us today, including our first page interns, as well as the interns who have been shortlisted, have been selected after a due process of selection. And it's like we have launched the website, the Migration News, in the month of September previous year. And the way it has emerged because of our team, which has been doing well in terms of providing the outlook, the migration policy oriented research briefs, the articles, and so many initiatives which we have taken upon in these months. So, for now, I would like to um, request Dr. Sadanand Sahu, who is a senior assistant professor at Indira Gandhi National Open University, as well as he is convener of the Global Research Forum on Diaspora and Transnationalism. I would like to request him to please take over the proceedings so that we can start our orientation program for our new interns. Warm welcome to each and everyone. Sir.
Please unmute. We cannot hear you.
Dr. Sada, I think you need to unmute.
Okay. So good afternoon, good morning, and good evening to all. Thank you, Abhishek, for this nice introduction. And today is very special because we have second batch and first batch successfully we are going to complete. And first batch we had around 17 interns, and they are all happy with us. And see that many of them today also joined, and they are really made this project successful within the record time and contributing more than 150 news over 2.5 months, you can say. And they started like highly motivated. Among them they managed in a self-managed form. We didn't guide them much, but the motivation was important. I find that Manjima, many others. We have so many. All they managed so well that today we are here, and we got that motivation from them, and we again advantage for second batch. The point I want to make is this is a forum which is very important because news is the public side of the academic and policy what we do. Unless there is outreach, all the policy and academic knowledge we cannot make we cannot apply them. So there is a long debate on how to make things applicable, how to make things public, and you have done that role very well with your analysis, with your news. Media is so important these days, either social media, print media, or electronics media. So you have played a very big role to bring the migration into the forefront in the media. I congratulate all old interns and the new interns. Today I welcome all of you. We have got from, more than 200 applications. Out of that, we shortlisted around 65 in the first phase. Then second phase, we shortlisted around 23. And all of you are here, I hope. And with this, I can say, let's have little bit introduction about you. Then we'll go for our old interns. They want to say a few things, but all should be very brief. So let me start with the new interns. Uh, Kindly briefly introduce you, your place, affiliation maybe, and your interest, and why you want to join this forum. So after that, well, we have speakers who have mentored last time the interns, and this time also they kindly agreed. So I'll introduce them also. But before we go there, please introduce yourself briefly, your name, affiliation, and why you are interested, and maybe little more if you can say, but all should be very brief. Okay. Can we call by name Abhishek so that it will be better? Abhishek?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So that you can have a systematic, And please open your video. Only want to have some interaction so that, okay.
I don't want to be what you do.
Can you go with the first number one, number two? If they are not there, you can always go to next person.
We have Edwidge. By the
Everybody.
name of Edwidge. Can you please
For the
introduce
internship they take me.
us? Oh, sure.
Okay.
I'm a treasure, I'm saying about your father.
Dear Paris,
You're confident in
James.
dear participants, maybe the organizer will just call our surnames or names that we could start. I think it's
Sure,
better.
sure.
Would be better decision.
Gulnas, you are from which country?
I'm from Kazakhstan.
Okay. So what made you to think about this platform?
Okay, so if I start talking about myself, my name is Gulnash Ashat. I'm from Kazakhstan, but I was born in the Republic of Mongolia. I'm an ethnic Kazakh, but now I'm living in Kazakhstan, and I'm a PhD doctor in international relations. And at the moment, I'm a head of the Professional Department for International Relations at Kazakh Ablay Khan University of International Relations and World Languages, where we conduct classes in different languages, Oriental languages or Western languages, more than 12 languages in. And I'm also a holder of the Bolshak Presidential Scholarship of the Republic of Kazakhstan. And I studied at Brunel University in London. If I say why I'm here among you, it means I'm interested in migration. I mean, my research thesis is related to diaspora policy, and I hope that we can work together well.
Thank you, Gulnas, and
Any question?
No, we'll be interacting. It is not the last one. We'll be continuously interacting, but we have so many people today, so we'll have to allocate time, and it should not be too long. So thank you. We are working on diaspora policy is a great support for us because we are working in the same area. So thank you. Let's go to next person.
Mastewal Bitu, if I am pronouncing your name correctly. Okay. Would you like to please introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hello all. I am Mastawal. I am originally from Ethiopia, but I'm currently studying in the Erasmus Mendes Joint Masters Program. I studied in the first semester in University of Brussels, ULB, University Libre de Brussels. And I studied there transnational migration. And the second semester, I attended in the University of Wrocław in Poland. And out there, I studied intercultural communication. And in the third semester, maybe 1 week ago, I studied in Hungary, University of Szeged. And out there, I studied international relation. Now I come back to my home university, University of Brussels. So it's a kind of joint master's program. And it is the degree is transnational migration. And the coordinating university is University of Lille of France. So my research idea is I'm conducting a research on transnational political activism, Ethiopian political transnational or diasporic, home politics engagement or domestic political engagement. To what extent the diaspora's home politics engagement making a kind of social discourse transformation, a kind of ethnicized mindset amongst their constituency. So it's a kind of to what extent the diasporas are making a kind of influence in the domestic politics. That is my research idea.
Thank you, Mr. Wall, and so nice to hear that you are working on diaspora engagement with home countries. Very good to hear. Let's go to next. We'll have a, further. This is not the last interaction. We'll have so many.
Thank you.
So let's go to the next person.
Richa, would you like to introduce yourself?
Richa?
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Can you open the video in case you like?
Sir, I already wrote in the chat, like if I open the video, the net will get cut. So
okay. No issue. Okay.
So hello, everyone. My name is Richa. And currently I'm studying law at Oxford Brookes University in London. And I'm also a demographer and gerontologist by training. I have my MA and MPhil in population studies from IIPS Mumbai, and also an MSc in global aging and policy from University of Southampton. And currently I aim to be a researcher and a barrister. So with my future focus on immigration laws, and also as a part of research, I want to do how poor immigrant females, they have access to healthcare in West Bengal and Mumbai. So that's what my research is. And I'm also working under Queensberry University, like the Migration Health and Network in South Asia, that tackles the migration issues in India by 2030. So yeah, that's it.
Oh, nice to hear, because Professor Parvati Nair is from same university and we'll be meeting her today. So many interesting topics. In fact, your topic also very important, teacher. So let's go to the next person.
Nabiha, can you introduce, please?
Hello, everyone. I'm Nabiha Jamil from Loreto,
Nabiha Jamil.
Kolkata. Can you hear me?
Can you share in the chat box all the names so that they can go one by one without taking much time?
Audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
So hi everyone, I'm Nabiha Jamil from Loreto College. I'm currently pursuing my undergraduation in geography honors, and I'm in my 5th semester. I'll just graduate in August. So all of this is very new to me, and I'm basically interested in research, and I would like to explore more and understand where my interest lies. So yes.
Thank you. Hope we'll get a good opportunity here. Next one.
Felipe Honorato. from Brazil.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, we can hear.
Okay. My name is Felipe. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil. I'm a PhD student from University of São Paulo. And I've been studying the Congolese diaspora through media news, newspaper news. So I do a comparison between the Congolese migration flows to São Paulo, Paris, and Brussels. That's it.
Thank you. Very interesting, in fact, Congolese diaspora. So next person.
We have Mohammed Zakaria.
Okay.
Please, can you please introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm audible.
Mohammed Zakaria.
Yes, my name is Mohammed Zakaria.
Not able to hear, some audio problem. Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, now, my name is Mohammed Zakaria. I'm from Sudan, but currently living.
Can you be little louder? Some audio problem is there. Can you be little louder?
Okay, I'm saying my name is Mohammed Zakaria Abdallah.
Still very slow. You take the mic to near to your mouth, maybe. Take the mic near to the mouth.
Now is it? Can you hear well or still?
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Okay. I'm saying my name is Mohammed Zakaria. I'm a Sudanese, but now I'm living in Kenya. I'm graduate from Southern New Hampshire in public administration. I'm interested to do in my future master's degree, and I want to do research in migration and security. So this is
okay. So thank you, Mohammed. Good to hear this interest. Next one.
We have Sanchana from India.
Okay.
Hello, good evening, everyone. A very good evening, respected sir and ma'am. This is Sanchana Srivastava, and I'm a master's in international relations from Central University of Jharkhand. My research area includes the United States foreign policy, and my skills include migration, humanitarian affairs, peace building, diplomacy, and my research area is United States foreign policy. So I am here to explore more about migration diplomacy and diaspora, and looking forward for effective and fruitful cooperation from each one of you. Thank you so much.
Okay, good to hear, Sanjana. So we have all related areas only, so that is a great sign. The next one, Abhishek.
We have Jack Levers from Canada.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jack. I'm from Vancouver, Canada, and I have an undergraduate in international relations and political science from Simon Fraser University. From this, I'm just hoping to gain media and research experience and just meet people from all over the world. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jack. Let's go to the next person. Quickly, we'll finish.
Shimoni from Uganda. Would you like to please introduce?
Shimoni, authorizing vote to next. Yes.
Are you getting me? Hello.
Yes. Yes, Shimoni,
Are
we
you
can
able to
hear
get
you.
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. My name is Shimon Chwanuka from Uganda. Yeah, I have just completed my master's degree in refugee and migration. And now I'm working on a postgraduate diploma in monitoring and evaluation. Yeah, the reason why I joined the platform.
Okay. Yes, some noise was there, I muted.
Okay.
Please carry on.
I was saying that the reason why I joined this platform, I want to improve my skills in writing, documentation, most of that is writing. And that's why the reason I'm studying a monitoring and evaluation postgraduate diploma. I'm happy to meet you, everybody, and I believe we are going to learn a lot through this platform or this engagement. Nice time.
Thank you, Simone. Very interesting area. Again, monitoring and evaluation is very important area. So next one, Abhishek.
We have Kieran McTagg.
Okay.
Oh, hello. I hear. Sorry, I hear dogs.
We can hear.
Anyways, hello. Nice to meet all of you. So I'm from the United States, but I'm studying in Paris, France, at the American University of Paris. I'm finishing up my master's program in international affairs and civil society development. I'm writing my thesis actually on displacement related to climate change in West Africa. And I've done quite a bit of volunteer work with refugees in terms of integration and education. And I'm very drawn to this platform because I think it's a good opportunity for me to feed knowledge into my thesis, but also just contribute to what I think is very important, which is the rights of people on the move and displaced peoples. So,
thank you, Kiran. Very important. Displacement, forced migration is very important area, in fact. So let's go to the next person.
Felix Tombindo from UK.
Felix.
Hello, everyone. I'm happy to meet you all. So I'm Felix Tombindo from Zimbabwe. Currently, I'm studying for my PhD in African Studies and Anthropology. I joined this forum because 2 years ago, I conducted a study on the contribution of the diaspora towards development of their home countries. My case study was on the Zimbabwean diaspora. So I've joined this forum so that I can perhaps build on what I've done before and also network with like-minded people. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Next one.
Masha Hassan from India.
Okay. If he's not available, let's go to other.
Masha, I think she's there. Masha, can you unmute yourself?
I think we have to make her host. 1 minute. Name is what is name?
Masha Hassan.
Spelling?
M-A-S-H-A. I think she... Okay,
we'll go to next person. Quickly, he or she can come back again.
So do we have Fabrizio Parelli?
Yep. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So I am Fabrizio from Italy, and I am really thrilled to be here, to be part of this forum, as I am a student of the master degree program in international cooperation and protection of human rights. So I think it's very related to this, the topic is very related to what we are going to do. And I'm very interested in migration and what is going on in the world right now and in the past. And I started writing my thesis about the Yazidi people. Who, for those who doesn't know, they are a group of people who lives in Kurdistan, and have been abducted, abused by the ISIS. And I'm really glad to be part of this forum, and I want to contribute as much as I can to the best outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Next one.
We have Solomon Wanla. Can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello everyone. I'm glad to be here. My name is Solomon from Nigeria. I obtained my master's degree in gender and peace building, and I have my bachelor's degree in international relations. I am currently working on a project in Nigeria, a migrant project precisely, where I research on irregular migration, and then I educate Nigerian potential irregular migrants. I educate them on the dangers, the risk of involving in irregular migration, that's migrating through Sahara deserts in the Nigeria Republic, Morocco, etc. So I...
Yes. Please, you can speak. Is it over?
And the Mediterranean Sea. So I joined this platform to learn more about migration in general and how to support at the global level. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Solomon. Next one, Abhishek.
Then we have James Asuma.
James. Go to the next, you can come back always.
Then we have Uchena Aja Akpuru Aja, I think, if I am pronouncing it right, he is from Nigeria. Okay, then we have Gian Edwidge from France. Would you like to please introduce yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Jean Edwidge and I'm from Haiti, but I'm here in France for studies. I'm currently finishing a master's degree in international migration at the University of Poitiers. My research thesis is on the main migration trends in the Caribbean region, like remittance, diaspora, labor migration. And I'm joining this forum for improving my skills on research in the field of migration, and I'm very happy to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Edwidge. Next person.
Then we have Syed Sajidur Rahman from Bangladesh.
Syed.
Yeah, thank you. Hello.
Yes, we can hear.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone from Bangladesh. This is Sajidur Rahman. So I'm a master's student in population, reproductive health, gender and development at East West University, Bangladesh. Basically, I have done all my academic courses, now preparing for my thesis. And this forum is related to migration, and my research topic interest lies in migration. So this is a huge opportunity for my career and growth and development. So thank you all.
Thank you, Syed. Next one.
Rafiza Nurzahan from Malaysia.
Good day, everyone. I'm Rafiza from Malaysia. I'm currently working as a research assistant at University of Science of Malaysia. My research field is focusing on ontology study, and I'm joining this program to enhance my knowledge in migration policy. So hope with all of your guidance, it can enhance my knowledge in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaija. Next one.
We have Linda Ayorkar Anak from Ghana.
Linda. Go to the next person, they can come back always.
Yes, yes. We have Lina Mansoor from Egypt.
Hi everyone, I'm Lena. I'm from Egypt. I'm currently doing my master's in European culture and studies. Before that, I did my undergraduate in Egypt and the American University in Cairo in political science, particularly specialization in Middle East studies. I worked for like 3 years for the International Organization for Migration and the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. So I'm particularly interested in push factors of migration from Africa to Europe, and hoping to write a thesis about that once I get to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lina. Next one.
Sir, I think only Uchena, Maria, and Linda are left. Alejandro Camacho from Mexico, if he's also available.
Alexandra.
If she's
Yes.
also, yeah, Alejandro.
I think Alexandra came for our conference, I can remember.
Alejandro Camacho, she is like.
Okay, she's there.
So if I think 3 or 4 are left.
Okay.
So if
maybe they'll join next time.
Later on. Yes.
Okay. So what we'll do, thank you all for introducing briefly about your interest in this area and what we are doing and from which country. It's very wonderful to actually hear all of you. Your diverse range of research interest in diaspora and migration. So briefly, what we do, we have some of our previous interns who are still continuing. So you want to hear 1 minute each so that then we can go to the our main speakers. So can I request Manjima? Manjima?
Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes, great. So, hi everyone. Great to meet you all. I'm Anjima and I'm pursuing my undergrad studies in political science at Delhi University, India. So, I began my internship here last September, and it has been a few months. So, my key takeaway is that this is a great platform to not only improve your documentation and reporting skills, but also your networking skills. I mean, to contribute something, to make a change of your own, you need to break out of those echo chambers we are trapped in and hear.
There's some network issue, Manjima. Okay, what we'll do, we'll get back to Manjima again. I think Srinita, are you there, Srinita?
Yeah, hello, good afternoon, Prof.
Yes, Subhajit or Srinita, anybody?
Hello?
Hello, say. Acha, you are
Yeah,
back.
hello, good afternoon, Prof.
Yes, you can introduce.
Okay, sorry, my network is somehow poor, so I will
No,
not be able to show my face. Okay, yeah, my name is Prince Olawishe from Nigeria. I work as an environmental and migration consultant here in Nigeria. My area of interest irregular migration, human smuggling, human trafficking, and research on climate change induced migration. Talking about the internship program so far, it has been a nice journey because the program has helped me a lot to sharpen my knowledge on migration. And as well, I am able to write perfectly. I just want to give many thanks to the organization for the privilege. And I'm so glad today because I also have 2 Nigerians on board. And then one of them happens to be my colleague at work, where we work together on the issue of irregular migration as it has to do with crossing Sahara Desert, passing through Mediterranean Sea to Europe. So, and I want to implore all of you to pay attention to the training and then to be dedicated. So thank you, and then God bless you all. Yeah.
Thank you, Sai. Very wonderful that you have been so much interested in this area. So now I'll go to again previous interns. Michael.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michael. Originally, I'm from Slovakia. However, I have been living in Taiwan, where I'm doing my PhD. My research interests are Rohingya refugees. I have also joined this organization last September. And congratulations to everyone. Welcome on board. Well, you are going to write lots of reports, and I would like to give you one advice. Since you are going to write lots of reports, you are also going to receive a lot of suggestions from editors. So please don't feel disappointed, okay? Take it as advices from someone more experienced, because everybody in the organization wants to help you to improve. And I can guarantee you that at the end, you will improve a lot. So take those suggestions, okay? Work with your editors. And in the case you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact anyone, because all the people working for this organization are really nice, and you are going to have a WhatsApp group. So just feel free to contact and talk with anyone. And so welcome on board and see you around. Bye.
Thank you, Michael. So kind words and your experience. We really enjoy your company in this forum. Thank you. Shubhadeep. Shubhadeep.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
Yes. So I welcome all the interns. So yeah, I joined this organization 4 months ago, and like we were from the first batch of interns in September, and it was a very good experience. And so far, like I'm from a literature background, and so it feels like writing and thinking is actually our bread and butter, and so it must be very easy to write reports and articles, but when you actually go for it, actually begin to write the thing, it actually very complicated, because there are so many information, so much information to process, and then there is the difficulty of what exactly to actually focus on, because like for these articles there is a certain ethical dimension to it that gets attached, and along with that there is this confusion about how much of your subjectivity should be inserted into the article as well, because at the end of the day it depends on who is really representing the incident that happened. So it has been, from that point of view, it has been a really very good learning experience in that respect. I've learned a lot as a writer, and also in my capacity as an editor, because when you work as a team, you get to know a lot of things while interacting with the team, who their strengths, and how they like to work, what kind of perspective they bring in. And so you like learn to kind of sort of man management as well in that respect. And so I think that the new interns will have an amazing experience here too, just like me. And that's the reason why I'm also continuing with this organization as well, because the work culture here is pretty focused, but also at the same time pretty relaxed as well. So I think that is a big plus here. So yeah, welcome to all the interns again. Thank you.
Thank you, Shubhadeep. 2 points Shubhadeep mentioned, very focused and relaxed. That is what we want to focus actually. So thank you, Shubhadeep. Any other person from world? I think Manjima is back. Manjima, if you can briefly continue where you left.
Yes, my network connectivity is pretty
Yes.
weak, so I think I got disconnected. Is it okay now? Am I audible?
Yes. Okay.
Yes, so as I had pointed out, this is a great platform, since we get to hear stories from almost all over the world. So you not only get to hear more, you get to be part of different stories, and hence you can use this knowledge to widen your perspectives and to understand more about not only about migration issues, but also how people in different part of the world are constrained by different factors, and how they deal with these issues differently. And that is something you can understand only when you interact with them, only when you experience them. And this platform enables this experience. Since you have people from all over the world taking part in webinars, seminars, or discussions, and even interning with this organization. So this is a great learning experience. And regarding the work culture, I must say, while we, as Subhadi pointed out, while we are very focused on our task, we are also very understanding, and we prioritize your priorities as well. So there you won't be under any pressure, but we also do not compromise on the quality of our report as well. So it will be an easy working experience if you are focused and dedicated enough. And what we are looking forward to, I believe, is your dedication and your ability to open yourself to learning more from others. Because here we learn from each other. There is no hierarchy involved, but we get to learn from each other and improve all of our skills. Yeah. So looking forward to
Thank you, Manjima, for the point you actually mentioned. Because your team, I can see, is a self-managed team. We didn't interfere, and the way you manage that is a big hope for us that both volunteerism, motivation, and the purpose are coming together and making some impact. So now I'll request Inomusa if you can speak briefly. Inomusa.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Inomusa. I'm from Zimbabwe. I hold a master's in international relations from the University of Zimbabwe, but currently I'm studying my Master's of Arts with the University of Lucknow here in India. Interning with GRFDT is the most amazing thing that you can do. It gives you an opportunity to learn how to write news reports. I think at the beginning, if you're not used to being critiqued a lot, it's going to be difficult when you write a report and then it comes with a lot of corrections. You feel like you're being attacked and your intelligence is being attacked. But actually, it's a learning process. It's a good thing that someone is correcting you and you're learning how to write reports. And the greatest highlight for me is I got an opportunity to learn more from the experts in the field. A lot of you are going to have an opportunity to attend webinars and then write reports on the webinars. And you're going to learn a lot from the experts in the field of migration. And I hope you're going to have a great time. GRFDT is a great place for you. And I hope we'll also get an opportunity to also interact. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Namusha. And I think only one person, Unikrishna, left. Unikrishna, briefly, can you say something?
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, sir. So, hello all. I'm Unikrishnan from Kerala, India, and I'm currently doing my post-graduation in economics. I was a part of the first batch of interns in GRPT. And with no doubt, I could say that the journey has been so fruitful in carving out the best in me. And with the mentorship and guidance of Sahulsa, Abhishek sir, my fellow interns, and the whole GRFPT team, I could keep justice to my efforts in giving organization the best. And I'm so excited to work with such an amazing bunch of new interns, and I'm looking forward, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Unikrishnan. I think all the representative voice from the last batch already spoken. So with this, I conclude the your part. So we'll
we
go.
have Deepika Baba, if she wants to.
Deepika is there. Okay.
Yes, yes.
Deepika, can you speak briefly?
Yes, sir. Hi, good evening, everyone.
Okay.
Yes, sir. It was a great experience for me. I learned many things, right? How to improve my writing skill, how to improve my skills, and it helps me. All the professors and the experts are very helpful from me, and all the interns are very helpful to help to each others. So I think it was a great experience for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepika. So with this, I think all finished your, anybody left? I don't think anybody left. Abhishek, the new interns. Okay. So now we have very important, session. We have some of the world-renowned, scholars who are working on migration and diaspora. So I'll be very brief because If you Google it, you'll know their profiles are available. I don't want to take time. So we have Dr. Raj Bardoli, who has uh, several years, few decades of working as a senior, person in the UN system, senior officials, and she has worked on migration diaspora. She worked on Gulf migration and very extensive work on migration. And she has multicultural experience herself, studied in Canada, now settled in Dominica, origin from India, long back. So her experience as diasporic person speaks a lot. We have Professor Vinod Khadria. I think everybody whoever worked on migration. And just to mention, he was one of the contributing editor, one of the editor, co-editor of the International Migration Report. Then he has 50 years of research publication on migration, diaspora, and he has done many big projects in this area. We have Professor Parvati Nair. Again, you need not to introduce her. She has worked on many areas, not just on migration, but many other areas, very diversified area, starting from film to, you can say, the Spanish culture and many other things. Then we have Paddy, who has almost 10 different countries she worked on migration, and she was consultant to some of the top UN organizations such as IOM, and she has been mentoring many of our old interns, and she has been moderating all our webinars. So she is very familiar to many of you already. So I did not to again give a detailed introduction about her. And Professor Camelia, she is again one of the top scholars who worked on Latin America and especially the Mexican diaspora in USA. And her recent book again came in 2020. It was on professionals in Mexican professionals in USA. So we have 5 very notable scholarly speakers. I'll be inviting one by one, and please be attentive and listen to them. These are the orientation we want to give you because they are very, in their work, they are worldly, they are renowned in the world. And it is a big opportunity for us because they agreed to come here to this platform to speak. So now let me invite Dr. Raj Bardoli to speak about 5 to 10 minutes. Dr. Raj Bardoli.
Thank you very much. Good evening to those who are in the, how shall I say, in the India eastern side. Good afternoon and good morning to North American viewers. Thank you, Dr. Sada, for this introduction. I feel actually embarrassed because it's okay, fine. So what I'm going to talk about is, I think this is an exciting platform in terms of migration and the media, because most of the time, what news we get about migrants and migration-related issues is sometimes biased, is not correctly reported, and so on. So most of us, most of the people in receiving countries do not come across either migrants or migration for that matter. So they rely on the kind of news they get from the media, whether it's the traditional media or the social media. So a couple of things I want to point out as the new batch starts this is that migration is actually international migration and asylum seeking. They are complex phenomena. They are not easy. They are complex phenomena depending on a number of factors and conditions, social, political, economic, which go beyond national boundaries and jurisdictions. And they're highly dynamic and interactive. So when looking at this issue or reporting on this issue, this should be understood that this is not a black and white reporting. This is a very complex phenomenon. Second thing I wanted to allude to was that migration issues are multidimensional. In other words, they are reflected in public, political, and political debate, public debate, and they are mediated through the kind of information which is fed to the public and to policymakers. So we have multidimensional how to control migration flows in certain regions of the world by improving either international aid so these people don't travel, or through controlling or combating human trafficking. There's the issue of how to make sure that migrants, once they do arrive, how they are taken care of in terms of integrating them in housing, in jobs and schools and health and so on. There is the issue of the values and potential clashes between the receiving country's values and the migrants' values, their culture and their values, and the possible threats to host country that such clash of values. I'm just putting out some of these issues which would surface and how then they need to be reported. And possible and perceived or perceived real economic and security challenges. Often migrants are blamed for taking the jobs of locals, and that they are perceived as security threats, and therefore they're ostracized. Then the issue of emigration and how the brain drain affects, and there are many other issues. So when looking at the migration or reporting on migration issues, what should be at the back of the mind is that this is not a simple reporting. It's not just getting a news and putting out news. This requires, as one of the previous interns was saying, that it requires ethical reporting, professionalism, how we understand. And most of the time when the stories about migrants are told, they are not included. Somebody's reporting on them. I will be very quick now. I think I'm taking more time. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, you can.
Sorry, there's some background noise. The stories are told about them rather than told by them, and often positive stories are not conveyed in the media. So when reporting, there has to be a balanced coverage on migration issues, and done professionally, that you report what makes sense, checking all the facts and verifying information from different sources so that it is not biased and so that correct information is provided. And media plays a central role in how views are formed or shaped about migrants, how political opinions are shaped through the media, and especially when it is some political issue like elections and so on. Politicians have their own axe to grind, and they would want to make sure that they've got some scapegoating going around, that the problem is on immigrants or migrants rather than their own local or national problems. So when reporting, all of these needs to be taken into account. So I think as you go along, I mean, there will be a lot of challenging topics, and reporting on those topics is also challenging, but you will be guided as much as possible, or when possible, to make accurate, firstly, to understand the issue, and secondly, when reporting the issue, it's not just saying things that somebody said 500 people crossed the river or crossed the sea and arrived. You have to figure out how all of that happened. So this will require a bit of analysis, and this will require a sort of, balanced reporting and understanding, instead of just saying, this is what I heard and I'm going to report, because reporting does shape how people think of. And secondly, often people think migrants as a group rather than migrants as individuals. So individual stories are different. Not everybody is a security threat, and not everybody is economically dependent. But often migrants are lumped as a group in reporting in the receiving countries. So I think these things are important to keep them at the back of your mind. And I am sure this is a challenging program, but at the same time, it is good to take on challenges to further improve yourself and to learn. And we are also here to learn from your experiences, and some of the topics are really interesting. And I personally look forward to the migration from the Sahel to the Sahara Desert to European countries, the routes they take. I'm really looking forward to. And having one foot in the Caribbean, so I think the research on Haiti would be of great interest to me. Okay, I think I'll stop here because there are others who have to say. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Much important point you have raised. So next, may I request Professor Parvati Nair. She has been working on diaspora and many other issues, as I mentioned. Professor Nair.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, for inviting me. And it's a real honor to be here to meet a fantastic selection of interns, ongoing and incoming from 4 continents. It's brilliant. And I'm so happy to have this opportunity to get to know you all and to share a little bit of our common interest in migration, and also to follow in the wake of Professor Bardoui's illuminating talk just now, and to be here with Professor Khadria and so many others who are eminent. And Dr. Sada, thank you for this invitation. You are amazing, the way in which you galvanize all of us and bring us together as a community of people trying to make a difference in the field of migration. Thank you. I'm going to be brief, but it's a huge topic. You're sitting on the borderlines of 2 amazing fields, media and migration, very, very important fields in terms of human experience, societies across the world, as you can see from the fact that we are from everywhere and all over the world here gathered today. So migration is, of course, a key recurrent theme in the media. And many of us will have noticed that it becomes an even more prominent theme at election time. The media plays a key role in the way in which the collective mainstream imagines what migration is about, who migrants are, who refugees are. We learn about migration and this mass phenomenon that actually is probably the story of our own lives or the lives of our families, because we are all of us, migrants from somewhere in our DNA. We imagine this phenomenon through the language, the images, the discourse, the narratives of the media. And so it's very important to understand the role, the responsibility of the journalist, as Professor Bardoui said, but also to understand as well that when we talk about migration, we are implicitly also creating in our minds certain scapes, concept scapes of nation, borders, sovereignty, citizenship, who we are, who they are. And in terms of migration studies, I would say that there are probably 3 very important approaches to understanding this very complex phenomenon that brings together a whole range of disciplines and concept areas to do with politics, international relations, economics, culture, society, sociology, as you can see from the backgrounds of all of us who are here, sitting here today. So one would be a lived experience and triggers kind of approach, looking at what is happening on the ground. Why do people move? Is there climate change? Is there conflict? Is there inequality? Is there poverty? What are these triggers? And what happens in the journeys? Do we travel with papers? Do we travel without papers? Do we go through legitimate means? Do we go through traffickers and brokers? How do these journeys happen? And how do the relocations and resettlements, if they happen, how do they happen? To what extent is mobility smooth? To what extent are mobile people immobilized by the obstacles that they face? So what happens on the ground is one approach, not always easy to do. Another one, of course, is to look at migration from a policy level. And that is crucial because, of course, certain people are not called migrants, they're called expats, or they're called, foreigners, but they may be people with skills, with educational levels, with a lot to contribute to the economies of the countries that they're going to. And there might be others who do not have these advantages and who are called migrants, and we don't quite know who they are, and what exactly is meant by this word migrant. But skill level, social class, and both material and immaterial capital are key markers in identifying more or less the labels that go with people who are on the move. And there is, of the 258 million migrants in the world who cross international borders, there is a significant, but actually minority precariat. And by that I mean people whose human rights, whose dignity, and whose safety and well-being are at risk because of the policies that exist. So the political policy spectrum of migration is a crucial one to bear in mind when writing on migration. And the third very, very important role or approach to migration is that of the media. The media really informs the public of migration and establishes the narrative. And we have seen, or at least I have seen in the course of my career, significant changes in the language around migration. When I was a child, people talked about exiles, and there were people who were in exile. There were refugees. There were immigrants and emigrants, but now we talk about migrants. We're not quite sure whether they're coming, going, staying, but they're migrants. I just wanted to say that the media, though, is not necessarily independent. Yes, the media has a responsibility to report accurately and to report the truth, but very often media companies and those journalists working for media companies are working ultimately for through financial backing, which could be state-sponsored or it could be private. So we have big companies like Fox News or Sky, which belongs to Rupert Murdoch. And we have also on the other end of the spectrum, activist platforms, people who really want to fight the cause of migration and dignify migration. And so I think that when you embark, or if you embark on the life of being a journalist, you must be aware of who you're working for, where you're working, and what the ideological and political positioning of the entity and the organization that you work for is. The media plays a very, very big role as well in mapping the world, in understanding the world in terms of geopolitical positionings and hegemonies. And often these might have colonial or imperialist histories, but there are new forms of imperialism, new forms of colonialism that are at play today. And migration is one of the big issues that shows these up in its true colors when it comes to human dignity and equality. The media also plays a very big role in establishing a sense of the collective self and other. As I said, at election time across many parts of the world, certainly here in the UK where I'm based, migration is a big, big issue that comes up more prominently than at other times. And the key question, I think, as a journalist, as somebody working in the media, is to ask yourself, how do we perceive others? What language am I as a writer going to use in order to designate the people at the heart of the issues that I'm talking about? And in so doing, how do I define myself and the collective that I'm writing for? So at the fundamental heart of migration as a topic is the question of alterity. It's an ethical question, ultimately. It's a question of how do we perceive others and how do we perceive ourselves in terms of how we define others. And this ethical question, I think, should be your guiding concept, your guiding thought when you write on migration and you work on a platform like the Migration News. as somebody working in the media, you will necessarily be involved in selection. Like a photographer who cannot photograph the entire world or the entire scene. You make selection, you eliminate, you frame, you bring into focus, and you push away from the sight. So therefore, I think how you do that is something for you to think about and work through in terms of your experience. The language of migration, as I already said, is extremely important. And there's a lot, as Professor Bardui said, there's a lot of negative language around migration. Here in the UK, we know about our Prime Minister having talked about swarms of migrants in Calais across the border in France. We talk about migration in terms of waves and inundation, and nobody wants their house flooded. And nobody wants this imagination that somehow the advent, the coming of others to our country is going to flood our country. So this kind of reactive language, provocative language of migration is something to really watch out for in your own writing, your own thinking. Another small example here in the UK, I am still, after many years of living here and paying taxes, I am what is called BAME, which is Black and Asian minority ethnics. So, you know, am I minority, am I ethnic, and who is not ethnic? These questions must all be there, I think, at the back of your mind. But bear in mind also how media functions. I'm talking about mainstream media in terms of headlines, in terms of sensationalism, in terms of grabbing the attention. There is no drama better than the migration drama. And so therefore, one of these great problems with reporting on migration has been this repeated focus on the theatrical, which is of course lived by many people, but it is not the full story of migration. And that is the illicit border crossing, the refugee at sea who is about to sink or who has died, death at borders, razor wires, walls, illicit crossings. These are all things that you see over and again as tropes in the media. And the journalist here has a task of responsibility in reporting, which is to join the dots. But in my own research with media companies, what I've over and again found is that there are people who have done studies on migration, are genuinely interested in the topic, and yet they work for companies where they're under certain constraints to report in a particular way. And that the story has to have a hook. It must not last more than 2 minutes. And the media company will pay for the reporter to be in a place for a few hours or a day to not really understand what they're writing about in any great depth. In terms of, just very briefly, I won't take much longer because I too have to go, but I think that one of the things that we found firstly was that there will be a repeated focus on migration, not as a process or a phenomenon that affects most of the world and most of us in one way or another, but as crisis. And this crisis reporting is one of the ways in which migration is negatively represented. There is also this idea that newcomers are firstly others, and secondly, that particularly in the larger context, and this is why it's very important to situate migration within everything else that's going on, the larger context of whereby newcomers are seen as threats, as possibly terrorists, as dangerous somehow to who we are and to our way of life, whatever that means. There is also the question of not paying enough attention to history, to politics, to economics. Migration is a phenomenon that touches on all these issues and draws from them really and feeds very much back into all these disciplinary areas. So you really need to bear that in mind if you're going to report well and accurate and rigorously. There is also scant attention to individual stories, to cultural differences, to the adaptations and inventions that people have to make as they're on their move. There is hostility as well. So one of the big ways in which we foment nationalisms and fear of others is through migration and presenting the migrant as somehow dangerous to ourselves. And one of the most important things is, as Professor Bardui said, the absence of the voice of the migrant and the refugee. And migrants and refugees are just like you and me. They are people and they have voices and they can speak. So as a journalist, you are a you are a builder of bridges, and your responsibility is really to engage with what goes on in the field, and to bring those voices, to open up. It's not to represent the voice, but rather to create channels whereby those voices can be heard. And finally, I'd like to say very quickly that, The Guardian, for example, did a very interesting story, long story, by a young journalist called Patrick Kingsley. And this is the exception to the norm on migration reporting, whereby he spent several months accompanying a Syrian refugee all the way from Syria to Sweden. And that long journey whereby he really was able to track and trace the day-to-day experiences, the fears, the obstacles, the challenges of this person was extremely illuminating in humanizing a topic where migrants are often dehumanized. So I just wanted to say then that there is, of course, the whole field of social media, which is extremely important, I think, in its interactions and overlaps of informing the public around media in general and on migration. And I think this is a very open playing field, as we know. We've seen that during the US elections, of course, the way in which social media was used by different sides of a spectrum. And I think that there is some very interesting work going on. So, for example, lately I've been in touch with refugees in Lesbos, where the big Moria camp, which was meant to house 2,000 people, was housing 13,000 people, was burnt down in September. And these people have been rehoused now in much worse conditions, right by the sea, open to the winds in midwinter in Greece. An organization called Latitude Adjustment Podcast, for example, is there right now working with young refugees to enable them and to train them to become reporters on their own realities. And that's just one example. I think if you go to Instagram and you go to various other social media platforms, what we see is a phenomenal amount of activity thanks to smartphone technology, whereby these young people are really trying to get their voices out, even though they are encamped and immobilized despite their, in their journeys. So I'm going to stop here. I know there's much more, to talk about, but I want to thank you and wish you all good luck in your internships. I'm really, really excited to be a reader of this website, and I will be following your work. So, and I'm at the end of an email. Dr. Sada has my contact address, and I'm delighted to be part of this forum. But just finally to say, please, 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 when you write, when you work, always think that at the core of this whole migration issue, whatever angle you take, whether it's gender, whether it's finance, whether it's, politics, there is the human being, and that's the most important thing, and the planet. And I think that's another area for you to go into, please. And I already know that some of you have interest there. I heard what you said. Climate change, environmental displacement, and human displacement are the two big challenges of our times. So all best wishes, and thank you for having me here, Dr. Sada. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Nair.
I'm going to run now to my meeting.
Yes, please carry on, but such a depth you brought to this discussion, and two important things. What I can say, building bridges, there are very few actually in all spheres. So building bridges is very important now, and bringing the human aspect to in academics, media, or anything. These are very important things you told. Many things you told, but these two struck me actually. So
thank you so much. Okay.
Thank you, Professor.
Bye to everybody.
Bye. Bye. So this is a great thing. Actually, we got interns from various backgrounds. It's a very multicultural environment, diverse environment. So you can learn from each other, understand each other, and that itself will be making you more globalized. So without wasting much time, I invite Professor Vinod Khadria. As I already mentioned, you just Google his name, that's all. And most of the migration report, recent time, he has been in the editorial or somewhere in the advisory, or many policies also he has been part of. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Sadanand. It has always been a pleasure to speak to the young people, and I see it is not only young people. This is a collection of people at almost all stages of, um, you know, I would say a quest for knowledge. And that is what drives all of us, I think. So after listening to Raz Bardule and to our friend from England, I think what has been focused by Raz is in terms of ethics, if that was what was mentioned. And then, of course, we listened to a lot of issues in migration background. I think the two together, media and migration, are actually confluence of two oceans. So that's why you have to be selective. That's why we have to be selective. We certainly cannot address everything. We have to know everything. We have to definitely cover the entire canvas in terms of understanding, but then we have to specialize. And that specialization is going to be determining what is your purpose. Why do you want to specialize in a particular area of migration and media, through media? It can be advocacy, it can be an activism, it can be uh, to help particular groups of people, or it could simply be excelling in the field of media itself. That itself can be your goal. There is nothing wrong in having high ambition of being the world's top class journalists or top class media persons. Nothing wrong in that, because the two are interconnected. You cannot completely disjoint the two things, whether it's your ambition to excel or it is your ambition to fight for a cause. I think two are interrelated, and that's where I find the challenges that Raz Bordle mentioned are extremely, extremely important. And what comes to my mind, I think this forum, particularly today's talk, most of the time when I have spoken at GRFDT forum, um, I come with some prepared lecture in some form, whether it is PowerPoint presentation or it is without PowerPoint presentation. But I would say, to be very honest, this has given me an opportunity to speak extempore, to just think aloud. And particularly, I have, after listening to Parvati and Raz Bordloy, I would think three things come to my mind. 3F, I will call it 3F. The 3F are facts. Facts are important. But what is non-fact? I will call them fiction. So facts and fiction. And then the third thing that comes to mind is our own creation, and that is false news. That is there. The false news comes from some kind of a purpose, some kind of a distortion that is necessary, some kind of conflicts of interest. The same facts can be interpreted in different ways depending upon who is the sponsor. That is that is the challenging part, whether you belong to a particular group or you are neutral. If you are neutral, then your challenges are much more. If you are non-neutral, then perhaps you can also side with false news. That is a danger, but maybe something else lies there. Some other kind of self-interest is driving that kind of a allegiance. What is important is that no matter whether it is migration or any other field, when it comes to media, the word that is important is, we always see it in in television news, breaking news. What is breaking news? That is very important. You have to be in the center of the breaking news. And for the last 1 year, I would say almost last 1 year, our breaking news in the plural has been the COVID-19. We cannot forget that. And that's why all the media work that is work on the migration, on the issue of migration, has been focused on COVID-19. The impact of COVID-19, the recommendations, the actions, and you name it, all aspects. Post-COVID, we call it COVID, post-COVID, and then we tend to forget the pre-COVID. So we have to bring back the pre-COVID world with us. What were the issues that we were engaged with? I think Parvati mentioned a large number of issues. You name it, whether it is remittances, it is trafficking, it is smuggling, it is gender, it is brain drain. Raj mentioned about brain drain, return migration, forced migration, diaspora studies. The topics are a huge list, but how do you connect? How do you connect with something which is happening right now? What is the hot news today? That is COVID-19. That is how you find something new. We have been talking about remittances for ages, but what is new in that context? They are going to collapse. Remittances are going to collapse. That is something which is important. And if that is so, then what are the regions? Who are the affected parties? That is what is important for reporting, for analyzing. And then I would like to say, if you get your facts right, that's not enough. You have to analyze the facts. Whether your reporting or whatever you do, writing, is driven by facts and followed by analysis, or the other way around. You may be interested in some kind of theoretical analysis and then bolster it up with facts. So it is not one way. It is not facts followed by analysis. It can be analysis followed by facts. You gather those facts which support your analysis. That is very important. And that is what makes the difference in a, run-of-the-mill kind of reporting, a beating around the bush kind of journalism, or something which is different. And that difference comes from your quest for what is counterintuitive. What is intuitive is general. We know that it has been there for some time, and then it is going to be remaining so. What is new in that? That should not be driving you. Something that needs to be driven, you need to be driven, is by looking for counterintuitive analysis, counterintuitive facts. That, I think, is the challenge. So I would like to say whether, in India, for example, today I am sitting in India. You people are from all over the world. But India is also drawing a lot of attention. Why? Because of the vaccine. Because of the number of COVID, the spread of COVID, it is perhaps amongst the first 5 countries in terms of the scale of operation of the COVID. And then perhaps it is the first country in terms of the scale of the vaccination that is going to take place. How will that be distributed? The health workers are going to be vaccinated first, then the frontline workers, then the senior citizens, and so on and so forth. And what happens until then? Because we need to know whether there is going to be differentiation in terms of whether they will be all citizens, or they will also be migrants, or they will also be illegal migrants or irregular migrants. Will there be differentiation in terms of giving them the COVID vaccine? It can backfire. If you make that differentiation, you have to actually give that vaccine to each and every living human being. Because what is called negative externality is going to affect us. That, I think, is very, very important. So we have to connect. As Parvati said, we have to connect the dots. And that is how your responsibility would be much more than just a journalist who is just reporting the facts and putting it in the news. You are going to be an analyst. And how are you going to do that? You probably can write a travelogue. You have traveled across the world. You probably will be able to write a story, and within that story, You will weave all those issues that are going to be important, whether it is gender issue, whether it is, um, any other issues that is related to migration. That I think is very, very important. And I would also like to mention, in terms of travel and borders, last 1 year has seen tremendous drop in this. Lockdown has actually interfered with migration and mobility. So what is going to revive it? What are the steps that are necessary? And what are the hurdles that are still going to linger? Those things are going to be important. So when we think of mobility and migration, we have to understand certification of vaccination. They are going to be in different languages. Whether at the border control, they would be able to understand that certificate or not. How are they going to determine that those certificates are genuine or not? Those are the challenges of borders and mobility in times in post-COVID-19 period. And as I said, India is the largest scale of vaccination. By August, India is going to vaccinate 300 million people between now and August. Already, India has vaccinated almost 300,000 people. And I'm one of them, lucky enough. But what about the others who are waiting in the queue? They have to wait for a number of months because the supply of vaccine is limited. And who are the inventors? Who are the suppliers? They are the scientists. And who are the vaccinators? They are the doctors and the nurses. How many of them are migrants? We have to ask ourselves those questions. You have to focus them. You have to talk about them. How we differentiate in terms of migration policy and visa issues. The Trump ban on migrants had exempted the health workers because of the vaccine. That differentiation had come from that.
The website.
Somebody saying something? Okay. Trump wall, for example. The Trump wall was being built and now it is going to be demolished, hopefully. So these are the turn of events that should drive your quest for knowledge, quest for facts, quest for understanding, quest for analyzing them. And that's where we stand today at the transition of history. 100 years ago, Spanish flu had taken place. And 100 years later today, we are faced with another pandemic. And post-pandemic, how the world would be different, how the world of migration would be different, how the world of migrants would be different. All those it is too early to speculate, but certainly it's not too early to think of the solutions, of the policies that are going to make this a better place than what it could be. I think that's where you have to find your purpose. Why are you trying to get into media on the issue of migration? Is it your personal ambition to excel, or is it a cause that you want to support? Whatever you do, you have to identify your challenges and find those solutions. So I wish you all a good time here, interaction with the earlier batches of interns, with those who are going to be in touch with you all the time. Your own interaction is very important. Interaction amongst yourselves is going to be very important. So I would say good luck. And thank you, Sadanand.
Thank you, sir. It is so wonderful to hear. Professor Khadria also one of the recipient of the Times of India award long before. So that was very prestigious. And today, sir, you taught so many important things, especially how the journalist should toss the fact with the fact. And more than that, you told another important thing, that is whatever within media also so diverse area, so much diverse area. Whatever you love should do that. Somebody interested on traveler, you should write on that. somebody interested in anything reporting from the ground, do that. So there are so many areas. Please choose your own area, and this is a very important thing, sir, you told. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sada. As now that you have mentioned the Times of India Fellowship, I
Yes.
must say I was not cut out to be a journalist, but it was the journalist house, the Times of India, which gave that fellowship in 1993, 92 actually. There were two fellowships, one for a journalist and one for a non-journalist. And the competition in the non-journalist category was fierce and undeterministic because everybody who was not a journalist was in that group and competing against each other, non-competing groups as we call it. And nobody could have predicted that they will choose my project or decide to give that fellowship to me. And that helped me in undertaking one of the very large surveys, throughout India on migration of knowledge workers, and that was that helped me in write my first book called The Migration of Knowledge Workers. If you get time, do browse through that book. What it was like talking about migration at that point, prior to the 21st century, at the turn of the century when nobody had known about IT and other, new things that came up. The IT revolution had just happened at the turn of the century, and my book was at the brink of that. Thank you, Sada, once
And
again.
sir, that is the still we refer that work when you talk about brain drain or student migration, professional migration. This is the only high quality, in the sense, one of the main reference for whoever studies on migration of knowledge worker. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sada.
Yes, I think Masa Hassan has joined. Just please introduce yourself and about your affiliation and why you are interested. So we missed you that time. Can you introduce?
Hello, everyone. I am Masha Hassan. I'm originally from New Delhi, but I'm
Yes.
studying my master's in Bologna, University of Bologna, Italy. The emphasis is mainly on colonial and post-colonial studies. And I'm also working as an interpreter at the Home Office. So I translate from Hindi, Urdu, Punjabi to Italian. I have also worked at the borders, France-Italian borders, as an interpreter at Ventimiglia, Paterassa, and Serbia. I occasionally write for Times of India and for the Speaking Tree column. And I'm interested because, my main focus, because I'm an anthropology student, so my main focus has been to destroy the distorted images of media, of institutions. So my main question basically is to my mentors that are we allowed to criticize institutions? Because if I'm writing, I'm used to criticizing institutions a lot. So do we have that liberty to do that?
You are based at Bologna, did you say that?
Yeah.
That rings a bell because I think the University of Bologna was the first university in the world.
Yeah.
If I'm not wrong.
Oxford. Yeah. Oxford and University of Bologna.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
So
I have to leave, Sada.
Yes, no, sir. Nice, this is an important question, Masa, and we'll discuss about that. We have to maintain some balance in the sense we are not powerful, we have to fight with power.
Yeah.
What balance we have, what kind of things you have to do, articulate. Okay, thank you, Masa. Now I'll go to Paddy. Paddy has been, in the sense, a very familiar face. Everybody knows her. I already gave a brief introduction, but she has been working on policy area of migration, mentoring our so many interns and even mentoring us also. So it's great to have Paddy here. Paddy, over to you.
Thank you, Sada. My voice is pretty bad. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear.
And I've been trying with a lot of different concoctions. So this is not how I usually sound. And and I'm trying to make sure that for tomorrow's webinar, I'm tip-top, because we have an enlightening topic, which I think this is where I'm most familiar. I think with the GRFDT, been working together and trying to shape, the migration discourse with bringing different experts, scholars from various backgrounds, predominantly talking about the Global Compact on migration. So I actually thought some of what I had presented, what I had prepared to talk about before is sort of the interface. When we think about the Global Compact for migration, it's sort of the home where many things should sit. It's the hope that we had in 2018 when various countries came together and they said, yes, let's put these different objectives together, these goals, these ambitions, and let's strive together and think about migration in these different concepts, covering many different areas. But then I've torn that paper aside because sitting in this room, I think just from your introductions, I am blown away by your rich backgrounds, from where you are, from where you're sitting, from where your countries are, from the studies that you're doing, but also particularly by the interests that you have. I counted, I think we have 15 countries, Dr. Sada, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, around that.
Yeah, so, and we've covered the continent, we've covered Africa, we've covered Asia, we've covered North America, Europe, and even as far as South America. So we are covering this global perspective, and we should never take it for granted, because I think the biggest discussion these days, whichever forum you look at, is what's happening on the ground. And that's the local context, your geographical location, what's happening with migrants on the ground, because they don't live in the space. So the other day I was in an interesting discussion where we were even talking about, we call it the Global Compact on Migration, as though we were all living in a globe, we were on top of a world. But actually, we're all very localized. Every one of us belongs to a municipality. And whether you're a migrant or a citizen, you're in a municipality. Right now, as governments around the world are going around counting people, they don't just go to the census. They're going to the local authorities and saying, how many people do you have in your county? And it's in these spaces we need to influence much more. What can we influence in these spaces? And we're saying, are you counting the migrants in urban spaces? Are they being counted? Because they've become this group of invisible people, and therefore their experiences, the vulnerabilities, the fact that it's a woman or a child, the fact that they're coming from a race that is predominantly discriminated in that particular environment. We forget these vulnerabilities, and therefore we come up with these policies at the global level that are very blanket, that talk about providing for migrants. And in that way, we lose, because we lose the local context. So I want you to think about where you're sitting right now and how important it is to where you are, and what, as you think about the interests that you have. And it could also be, when I say sitting, it could also be the area of the country that you're interested in. I heard somebody talking about, looking at the diaspora, the Congolese diaspora in a particular area. That's how we're localizing things. We can't just say, oh, the Congolese diaspora in the globe. No, they're in a location. What's happening to them? I've heard somebody talk about, looking at Kurdish people and understanding the vulnerabilities that they face in this very contentious environment that they're in. You really need to narrow down and understand what you're dealing with there. That's diaspora engagement. Some of these interests you've brought out. Somebody talked about monitoring and evaluation, looking at research in the migration field, all these areas that predominantly we don't think about when we think about migration sometimes, but these come in as the tools and the concepts that you're using, because they're similarly the same. How do we gather stories? Now in migration and in monitoring and evaluation, and that's the field that I work in, we talk about storytelling, and predominantly experts and scholars haven't been good at storytelling. This has been something we've left to people who are studying, let's say, psychology, or people who are studying more in the sociology part of life. We've been sticking to government data on what migrants say. But now we've been moving more and more to understanding storytelling. And storytelling is something that's going across the field, whether you're looking at inclusive education, and that includes people who are vulnerable and migrants and refugee children, for instance. You would need to listen to the story. If you're looking at more inclusive approaches to how migrants are being integrated, you would need to look a little bit further into the details to understand. And there you would get the stories. We have new concepts like photo voice, where you have to give the migrant to tell their story. So it's very interesting how your different interests coming together. And I think one of the things I could talk about all your interests all day, because I found it extremely intriguing. But because of in the interest of time, talking about bringing the rights of people on the move, the US foreign policy and the interface with migration, and so many other things, forced displacement and how we're handling it. But I was thinking about the interns who also shared with us what their experiences were like. And we can build on that. And where do we build? By the experiences and the interests that we have. So take advantage of it. Take advantage of the experiences that are within your network here as the 23 interns. Let me take an interest with what that person's subject is, but what their methodology is as well, because it could impact on yours. So I think that very important network around you, because sometimes you come as an intern and you already want to look to the mentor, but sometimes your mentorship experience is also sitting with your peers. So look around you and dare to build a relationship from Brazil to Africa. Dare to build that relationship from a localized position where you are to another place where you've never ventured. Try and understand what the other person is studying, and you could pick up something from a thematic point of view or from a technical point of view. So in terms of the tools that you would use. I wanted to talk about the power of information and misinformation. I think COVID has shown us what that can do. When we moved to in the masks, they are putting the virus. In the masks, there are chips to track your information and get data about your DNA. Professor Camelia is here, and she talked on Saturday. You should, if you haven't seen the special lecture that she did, I invite you to go onto the GRFDT YouTube page and look at when she talked about sort of this communication as a crisis and how information in there and actually misinformation has taken us to a new level of crisis, and how we can unpack and fold it. And for me, one of the ways is what Professor Kadria was talking about, facts and information. And this is where you're bridging the gap, like Dr. Raj and Professor Nar had come out. The people in the media bridge this gap, bringing research and evidence to policymakers, to everything we who call ourselves migration experts talk about, so that we're really speaking onto the migrants' experiences. Do you remember the story of the 5-year-old lying on that beach in Turkey, trying to cross over? That story, just before anybody read the story, the fact that you saw the picture, it was so impactful, because a picture can say indeed more than 1,000 words. And just the power of information. I mean, it's unfortunate that that picture, it gave a stir of events around the world. It showed the world how institutions, and Masha, you asked the question, can we question these institutions? Yes, we can. And that's the power of media. You question them with evidence. You say, this is what's happening, but this is what your immigration policy looks like. This is what your policy looks like. So this is how we can question intelligently and using a lot of information and evidence from migrants, evidence from different sources. We have governments giving information. We have, you have a whole range of opportunities. You have people, their reports from the field, their policy briefs that are being issued. You have annual reports of programs and projects. There's also this core to more and more information. And with COVID days, because we cannot travel, there's much more out there. But the journalist's role is not just to pick and put it in a smart way and give it a story feel. Is for you to take us and show us what's the human story behind here, because this is what we miss in our policy. We miss empathy. The world is lacking empathy. And the empathy, at the center of empathy, is the human being. Professor Nar had talked about this. Whatever we do, we center back to the human being. And this is where the journalist comes in and tells more and more of these human stories. And human stories, you can find them. You can start from a big topic, like last week, in the last couple of weeks, there's been the global migration, there's been the global, the summit for the global forum that looks at migration and development. So many policy briefs, so much has been digested. But in there, we can unpack stories. When we read their gaps, when we read the recommendations, why don't you read it with what kind of story would a migrant have on this? Because that's the information we miss to pump up all these forums that are coming together. The Global Compact is soon going through, it's in a process of an evaluation, if you'd like. We signed it up in 2018. We're now in 2021. Yes, we've had a year of a pandemic, but we've also had an opportunity for us to see what we signed up for, So you can question it with that. What are the gaps? So in all these big forums, so my quest to you is move from the bigger picture and come back to your local, because this is where stories need to be impacted. And two last things I think I would say, we've heard about these difficult and dangerous journeys. We've heard about discrimination and exclusion, criminalization of migration. Dr. Raj alluded to that. Can we talk about migrants as winners? We are now associating the word migrants and vaccine development can be in one sentence. Could you believe that could happen? We're having new creations and new innovations being in the same sentence as migrants. Can we do much more of that? In short, can we use evidence to influence the public discourse so the public could know? Could we use very small localized things like migrants gathering with local people in cultural festivals, in food, in sharing fabric experiences? I think we have, as part of our GRFDT family, Professor Renu, who had done a very interesting story about how fabric moved from India to Zanzibar. Interesting things that we can pick on that. We are connected by fabric. There's interesting work that's being done between cities that uses fashion designers, that uses food, that uses people to connect. All of us are looking for that human experience. So I think these are the things we need to help unpack and touch to the global policies. Very lastly, I think, you have an international network here. You have access to experts. You have access to tools that you could really use. We've talked about, migration really being this interdisciplinary, having this interdisciplinary interface with politics, with economics, with health, and COVID is showing us. Professor Kadria just talked about who will access the vaccines, what's happening to access in terms of COVID prevention, but also people who are affected by other non-communicable diseases and they're migrants. What's happening to supply and treat and their treatment? What is happening around that space? We can investigate. Another one thing we can't run away, our planet, that interface with climate and environment. In Mozambique, there's been the cyclone that nobody ever planned, nobody ever expected. Okay, maybe our friends who are working around geography would have anticipated this, but the magnitude of people and the impact we could have never imagined. So I think we have so much richness of topics that we can explore into, but always remembering that we need to put that human face back. And that's the responsibility we give to you, working together with those of us in research to understand how we can take this further. I hope I wasn't too crackly and too loud at the same time. Thank you, Dr. Sada.
Thank you, Patty. With your all, throat problem and all, you came here. That is a great thing. And secondly, as usual, your talks are so impactful. And I really admire the way you brought out this human face to the forefront. And lots of things with your own experience working with big organization, you brought out the issue how, migrant, journalist, media people should work with various, documents, various policy report, and these are very important. So without wasting much time, again, I'll call Professor Camelia because we are almost 2 hours, close to 2 hours. Professor Camelia, she has been very important in the sense with when she came to our link, and after that we didn't look back actually. We had so many events, and with her own organizing skills, entire Latin America, we had big network with them. Professor Camilla is such a wonderful, resourceful, and knowledgeable person. So anyway, now without wasting time, I should invite her. Professor Camelia.
Well, thank you so much, and I'm really happy to be here. Thank you, Sada and Patty. And of course, the advantage of speaking last is that most of the important things have already been said, but I'm really happy to recall my own experience as a journalist, maybe a bit more than 20 years ago, but I think these international environments are great learning hubs, and especially the GRFDT has been very good at coaching interns. So I'm just gonna speak about two topics. One is this risk communication on migration. You all know that there is a knowledge utilization of migration in politics nowadays. We have big politizations of migrants as risk agents, and maybe your task is to show that migrants are not always putting people at risk. Most of the times they actually are at risk. So this is a big topic. And also look at how migration issues have been really salient in public debate nowadays. It's a very popular topic, migration, all type of migration, especially undocumented migration, people who are more vulnerable. So I would say your tasks are really at the intersection of science communication and communication on migration. It's a sort of a disclosure of migration. It's not so easy to talk about migration, but you as experts are of course more qualified to speak on migration than somebody who has just got into the topic a week before. So this is a really something that you can bring in the migration communication. And the other thing I would like to recall is that we are living special moments. So how is migration described nowadays? What are the challenges? We are in a very different moment. We are not at the beginning of the century. We are in a context of populist communication. We are in the context where there is a proliferation of expert opinions and media platforms. And I invite you to read some of the reports of the Migration Policy Institute on Migration and Communication. There is the study of Bănulescu Bogdan, Natalia, and she's speaking about when facts don't matter, how to communicate more effectively about immigration costs and benefits. It's a really great study. She talks about how motivated reasoning is losing nowadays because people go for the immediate news, what happened yesterday, rather than looking at the history of migration flows, of getting the broader picture, right? So many people have tried to capitalize about this anxiety on migration. You in your countries have to speak about it and give it a more objective view. We all know that objectivity is not 100% possible in journalists. However, it is sort of a goal for yourself to reach, to try to reach. So always look for the basics, have several sources of information, look at how individuals see their own migration process, but also look at institutions. Look at institutions with varied political and economic purposes. So I will leave it here. Thank you so much, Sada, and I will be happy to, give my advice to anybody who would like to hear my opinion and maybe read some of your work on the migration news. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor. You always been helping the interns, and they are so happy to find a mentor like you. In fact, you gave reference. I request all of you to read those things because these are very important to know how the migration processes are happening. And one thing I must emphasize here, it is not that you learn from us. It is mutual, where we learn from, last interns who are existing interns. We learn lots of best practices from them. Manjima is here, Michael is there, Shubhajit, Srinita, and they, knowingly, unknowingly, they taught us many best practices. And in fact, they are so happily doing. Today, I can hear the many things also again, how they learned without even we knowing. They learned from the platform. So it is mutual. In fact, we also learn many things from you, and we'll be learning from new interns. I hope you bring best practices wherever you want, whatever good you found. You don't feel hesitate to implement here. It is the place to implement all the best practices. And we are in a growing stage. Feel free to do all experiment, how you interact, what kind of story, style, content, all this area you experiment, and that is where we can learn many things. Though we have a platform, we don't have many skills which you have also. So these are all mutual learning we have to learn. And I thank all of you, all our interns, Professor Khatria, Dr. Raj Bardoli, Professor Parvati Nair, Paddy, Professor Camelia, and everybody. Before I end, I request Ruchi to give a formal vote of thanks. Ruchi, over to you.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Sada, for giving me an opportunity to propose formal vote of thanks for the session. It's my honor and privilege to propose formal vote of the session for such orientation session where we have lots of insightful talks about the media outreach in the field of migration. I'm running short of words to pay my gratitude and heartfelt thanks to the eminent speakers we have today. Thank you, Dr. Raj, for your insightful talk. Thank you, Dr. Professor Vinod Khadria. Thank you, Professor Parvati Nair. Thank you, Paddy. It's always pleasure to listen to you all the time. Thank you, Professor Camelia. And as Sir mentioned, you are indeed a great source of inspiration and motivation for all the migration scholar in the world now. Thank you all the speakers for giving an insightful talk in such a short span of time and to creating that spark in the new interns. I'm also thankful to the previous interns of the GRFDT who have spared some time and have given valuable feedback of the orientation program and have provided played the role of kind of torch bearer for our new interns. I'm also thankful to the new interns from whom we are actually looking forward to the good collaborations, and I'm sure you will learn a lot from the internship with the GRFDT, and you'll have great network once you're done with your internship. So we welcome you all again. And I'm also thankful to the GRFDT team for giving me an opportunity and giving world such a great opportunity to have wider network of migration where we all are actually learning and growing together. Thank you everyone for such wonderful session. And welcome again all the new interns. Thank you, Sada sir, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Ruchi, for this wonderful vote of thanks. And we'll meet now onwards, we'll meet very regularly. And thank you all once again. Goodbye. We'll see once again. It is a very continuous interaction. Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.